Hi everyone, my name is Bjorn Valentine. I hope you're having a dandy day. Today I am with the ever so amazing Sai Bree. Today I am going to be discussing what is it like being a cis female within the fandom. I've heard many things about this, and I wanted to bring this up to you guys. So I have Sai Bree with me here today, and we're just gonna talk about it. Sai Bree, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sai. That's about it. No, I go by Kiss Me Karma online, or a long time ago, Demon Lord 261, and I've been hanging around the fandom for quite a while. I made my first animal character back in like 2006, and I kind of like lingered in the background, like hanging out, and then finally in 2011, 2012ish, I was like, you know what, let's go, let's do this. So yeah, I've been hanging out in the fandom since 2012. So
Dang. Got some fandom years on you.
ancient back in my day. I gotta get my cane to get myself up.
Alright, so I have a couple questions for you, obviously. What is it like being a cis female in the fandom?
So I would say it's kind of different, but it's definitely changed dramatically. Like now it's like no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely when I first joined, I actually, when you said you were going to be doing this, I like looked back at photos like of the first meet I went to, and I went to like a meet in Auburn, Massachusetts that I drove 5 hours to go to
Mm-hmm.
because there was nothing in Maine at the time when I was really getting into the fandom. And I counted how many people that I physically knew identified as female. Now I can't give you an accurate number because I couldn't remember everybody's identity, and I didn't want to assume anyone's identity
Yeah.
either. But out of the 40 people in the fursuit photo, I knew about 10 of them identified as female.
Okay.
So like that's like a fourth.
Yeah, yeah.
So for the longest time, it was kind of interesting to be like, yo, I was hanging out with mostly people that identified as male, and that was kind of the norm in the fandom.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it is kind of interesting to be like, hey, like you guys are all talking about this, but like, yo, sometimes I just want to have some quote unquote girl talk, and we can't have that.
Yeah.
Without it being kind of like weird, because we just sometimes there's different stuff that goes on with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah, so it could be it was a little bit strange. I definitely had some weird scenarios that also go along with being a quote unquote female,
Mhm.
and I hate the term of using that because
Yeah.
it's like female.
Oh.
And I have gotten messages like that, and that's the uncomfortable thing. It didn't matter what my relationship status or what I was like saying at the time. I've definitely gotten some uncomfy DMs.
Mm-hmm.
But also like yeah, like it wouldn't be just like, hey, the minute they knew I was a girl,
Mm-hmm.
it was like an open invitation into my DMs, and I'm like, that's not how this works.
Yeah, no.
No, thank you. I'm not looking for this. And then once they realized that I wasn't like interested, they would then ask if I knew anyone who was, and I'm like,
Oh.
no, I'm not your matchmaker or whatever.
Yeah.
So that usually was like the kind of scenarios that I would end up in that would
Mhm.
make me kind of uncomfy, but in reality they're no different than what I would see from people in like anime community or
Mhm.
like gaming community, where like for some reason there's some just gross people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Lifting up phone. Second question. You already kind of said, I guess, what someone would call a horror story, but like, do you have any
Yeah.
other stories like you were treated differently because you were just a female in the fandom?
Outside of like awkward DMs, not so much that I can remember. The trick is, what most of the scenario stuff I ended up finding from other people, like the quote unquote normal horror stories,
Mm-hmm.
at the time where that stuff probably could have happened, I was not interested in those scenarios. So like, I hear a lot of times like people are like, oh hey, like I wasn't invited to this kind of event because I was a girl, and it's like I wasn't looking for those, so like I like kind of like avoided a lot of those kind of scenarios where it would be weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, for most of my time in the fandom, I was already in a relationship, so it wasn't like I was searching for people or anything like that. Though definitely, oh man.
See, I actually heard stories of like artists not being picked to commission art, even though people liked their art. But once they found out that they're female, they're like, nah, I'm good, bro.
What's interesting is you say that. I've had people not want to draw female characters. I have an artist that I love their work, and they're like, I can't believe I have to put this in my TOS, but my likes list has to say females on it. Because I like drawing girls, and no one comes to me for girls, and they just automatically assume because I draw a lot of guys, or male bodies, that I don't draw girls. And that there are artists I've found where I'm like, dude, I love blah 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 stuff, but their don'ts list has female on it. They don't draw girls. Or there's been preferences to like certain things like that, and I'm like, that's weird. I've also found it where it was a favoritism in my way. Like, they like drawing girls, but because they don't get it a lot, like, I got priority. In a way. But like, yeah, I have definitely found some artists over time where quite like, instead of maybe there's commissioners that are also like that, but I don't, unfortunately, I don't do a lot of big commission work or make it a full-time thing. I've definitely noticed that there are some people where it's like, never mind, like their priority wasn't really the commission, but trying to like get with the artist kind of thing, or like, and that's not comfy either. In anyone's reality, but
no, I would hear stuff like that, and I'm just like, why? I don't get.
I don't, like, again, like, definitely drastically has changed from when I first joined, because like, again, like I said, I counted the people in that picture, and I was like, I think there was about 10 to the 40 people that, approximately 40 people that were there. Only 10 people in that picture I knew identified as female. And that's just identified. I'm not gonna go anything further, whether they're cis or not, don't care. That I knew identified as female. And then what's interesting is, so that was like back in, I started going to meets in like 2012. I think I went to my first meet really in like 2013, 2014. But then like, as like I went to my first con, and even in the cons, like most of the people I ran into were male. So like, it was mostly guys. There was always guys around. Or people that identified as male. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I mean, I don't mind. But yeah, I could see that as being kind of interesting. But now over time, like, even as I, like, the small amount of time, like, I went to a lot of cons. I've been to over 24. And in that small amount of time frame from 2014, where I went to my first convention, to, like, my last convention was in 2019. In a 5-year oh my god, it's been 5 years. In a 5-year span, I've noticed a huge flux in those numbers, where it's become a little bit more even as to like what people either identify as or are, and it's kind of been refreshing to kind of balance out that, where it's no longer like, you know, this is just for this, and it's like, no, there's just everybody. Non-binary, trans, cis, everybody's here. So
no, it's a big old hot pot of just everything, pretty much. So you kind of touched upon this before, but how has the fandom changed over time when it comes to this whole discussion, would you say?
I think it's become way more accepting. I definitely don't run into the same kind of like, I mean, I'm always going to run into the same kind of awkward people, but it's definitely a lot less. A lot more people are becoming more comfortable to the fact that, like, you know, there's more than just this kind of person. Like, and I think it's, in general, just the confidence and comfortability of the fandom with sexuality in general has made that much, much easier for everybody, whether you're cis or not. So I think that's where I was gonna go with that. I don't remember.
Those were pretty much the only questions I really had to touch upon it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to bring up, like if you want to showcase, like, hey, check me out on here, or what are you currently working on, kind of thing. So I'm asking you to promote yourself.
Oh,
much.
yeah.
You can talk to the camera for this part.
Hi. Hey, so if you like my... No, I'm just joking. Yeah, so if you ever want to keep up with me, I use mostly Twitter. You can follow me at KissMeKarma on Twitter. I also stream on Twitch. I have a very fluxing schedule, but almost every Monday at about 9 p.m. Eastern time I stream Super Animal Royale with my friend Solace the Wolf. But I'm going to start doing more art streams now that I'm a little bit more comfy.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Alright, that has been my lovely interview with the amazing Sai Bree. Hope you all have a dandy day, evening, and good night. See ya. We're doing stupid wave goodbye, even though it's unnecessary.